All right, everyone, just waiting on one commissioner and then we'll get started. All right, looks like we're all here. I move that we reconvene this meeting of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes.
Okay, great, thanks. And I'm a yes, so we are back. Let's go into the rest of our agenda. We're going to start at 166-22-Z. So Counselor John Pekarsky, I see you're here. Go right ahead and get started.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. My name is John Pekarsky. I'm an attorney with offices at 55 West Monroe Street. And this afternoon, I am happy to represent Mr. Fred Lane. Fred is a retired Chicago police officer, and his wife, unfortunately, has severe eye problems. In fact, she's been declared legally blind. She has a detached retina and degenerative glaucoma. The doctors have recommended natural light for her. And as such, my client is seeking to add basically a sunroom to the property in question. The addition will be at the west side of the building, and it will measure roughly 15 feet by 8 feet. It will cover approximately 1/2 of the existing porch or deck that is located at the rear of the property. It should be noted, the variation, the legal technical variation that we are seeking is for a 8.6 foot rear yard instead of the required 15.39 foot rear yard. The lot in question, as most of the lots in this subdivision, are truly interesting in as much as they have this one has 125 frontage feet by a depth of 55 feet. So obviously, there has been there is a significant need for a variation in it, adding to this particular building. It should be noted that in the original construction, a variation, the same variation basically was granted for rear yard in order to place the building on the subject site. The variation that is being sought is for an 8-foot 6-inch rear yard instead of a 15.39 foot rear yard. The property is surrounded by substantially similar buildings, many or all of them having rear yard, irregular rear yards. I have with me today Mr. Fred Lane. Fred, are you there? I hope.
Yep, Fred is on. And real quick, Fred, you're on mute. I just want to confirm, Peter Gatch, are you an objector?
No, Peter is our building contractor who has participated in the design and layout of the project.
Great, thank you, Counselor. If there's any objectors, feel free to just raise your hand. We'll get you promoted. Let's see, Fred, you're still muted. Yeah, so Fred is raising his hand. It shows you as unmuted now. But we don't hear you.
Fred, are you there?
Yes, can you see me now?
We can hear you. So, yep, and we can see you. Great.
All right.
Okay, you can't see me.
Yes, you're
Okay,
both. We can hear and see you. Now, Fred, please state your name, address.
Frederick Lane, Layne, 3254 West 86th Street, Chicago, Illinois.
And you're a retired Chicago police officer, is that correct?
Yes,
Great. And I'm going to swear Fred in. So thank you, Mr. Lane. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
yes,
Thank you.
Okay. Now, Fred, you're seeking a rear yard variation for an addition to the west side of your building. Is that correct?
yes,
And that variation, or that construction actually, is needed because of your wife's physical incapacity. Is that correct?
yes, to improve her quality of life while at home.
Okay. Now, you have retained a contractor to construct the subject addition?
Yes, I have.
Okay, and that is Peter Gatzich, G-A-T.
Peter Gash.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, and he is present today as well. Excuse me. Is it true that you purchased this property in 94 for about
Correct.
$175,000?
Yes, approximately, yes.
Okay, and is it true that the cost of the construction will be about $70,000?
Correct.
Okay, is it also true that you have talked to your various neighbors and you have solid support from all of your neighbors?
Correct. They welcome it.
Okay, and you have, of course, good rapport with your neighbors. And
I didn't hear that question.
okay. Now, in your opinion, will the proposed use in any way alter the essential character of the neighborhood in which it's located?
Visually, no, but it will enhance property.
it'll enhance your property, that's for certain.
Yes.
And if your property is enhanced, everybody else's would be enhanced, I assume. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I have no other questions of Fred, unless the board does.
Any questions from the board for Mr. Lane at this point? Okay, Counselor. Nope.
Well, promote Peter Gatzich. Peter, please state your name.
My name is Peter Gatch, and I'm the president of National Energy Contractors, the contractor for this proposed project.
Okay.
Thanks. And Peter, can you also state your address and I'll swear you in?
My business address,
Yep, that's fine.
206 West North Avenue, Lombard, Illinois, 60148.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes, I do.
Thank you.
Now, Peter, you have been engaged as the general contractor, and you have also participated in the design and layout of the subject addition. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true.
Okay. And the property measures roughly 55 feet of depth by 125 feet of frontage. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true.
And that's really an unusual and irregular lot. Is that correct?
Yes, but
And
that's no fault of the homeowner. That's how the builder, laid it out when they designed the neighborhood. Yeah.
in fact, most of the lots in that subdivision have irregular lots, are considered irregular lots. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true. They're very wide and not very deep.
Okay. Now, in order to establish the proposed addition, we will need variations. It's my understanding that you are proposing a 8'6" rear yard instead of the required 15.39 foot. Is that correct?
Yes, but I'd like to add that's consistent with the back of the house.
Right.
So we're not encroaching further into the back than the back of the house is already.
All right. This house was granted a variation by this board to allow the original construction of the house. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in your opinion, will the proposed use in any way diminish property values in the neighborhood?
Not at all. No.
Okay. In your opinion, will the variation alter the essential character of the neighborhood in which it's located?
No, and I'd like to point out too, there are no homes across the street. So there's nobody to really even marginally offend by doing this. There's no neighbors on the other side of the street. There's a berm and then the back of a shopping strip mall and all that. So unless you're driving past, no one even sees it. So yeah, it's very unobtrusive.
Okay. So I take it's your opinion that the proposed use will not in any way alter the essential character of the neighborhood?
Yes.
Okay. I have no
It will
further
not. It will
questions,
not.
Peter.
I beg your pardon?
I have no further questions.
Okay.
We would stand for questions from the board if they have any.
Yep, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Any questions from the board? All right, Counselor, I think we have what we need on this one. So we'll take this under consideration and we appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you very much and have a good weekend.
You too. Enjoy the weekend, everyone. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move now to calendar numbers 167, 22S, 168, 22Z, 169, 22Z, and 170, 22Z. As the attorney gets situated, I'll read the department's recommendation. And if there's anyone here to object on any of these matters, please just raise your hand and we'll get you promoted. So this recommendation is for the special use 167-22-S. The Department of Planning and Development recommends approval to establish a 7-story hotel with a maximum of 176 rooms, 60 parking spaces, and ground floor retail use, provided that the special use is issued solely to the applicant, 3440 Broadway LLC. And the development is consistent with the design and layout of the site plan dated May 13th, 2022, landscape planting plan dated March 8th, 2022, the floor plans, 7 sheets, roof plan, elevations, sections, 3 sheets, and maneuvering diagram, partial section site plan dated March 9th, 2022. Enlarged partial east zoning streetscape elevation dated January 7th, 2020. Context massing dated October 27th, 2021, and general information dated January 7th, 2022, all prepared by Eckenhoff Saunders. All right, Counselor, if you're on, you can take it away.
I am. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I hope you can hear me all right.
Yep, we can.
Great. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. For the record, this is Katrina McGuire from Thompson Coburn. I'm here as the attorney for the applicant 3440 Broadway LLC. With me this afternoon are Anthony Clock of 3440 Broadway LLC, Walt Eckenhoff of Eckenhoff Saunders, as well as Joe Ryan of LaSalle Appraisal Group. Mr. Chairman, would you like to swear in the witnesses before I go on?
Sure, yeah. I'll swear them all in down the line. So Anthony Clock, will you state your name and address? Oh, there we go.
There we go. Anthony Clock. My address is 215 West Ontario Street in Chicago.
Great. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. And we've got Walt Eckenhoff. Walt, can you state your name and address?
Yes, Walt Eckenhoff. Business address is 130 East Randolph Suite, 1850, Chicago.
Thanks. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Great. And then we've got Joe Ryan, who has been previously sworn in, and his expertise has been acknowledged.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And as I understand it, we do not have any objectors registered to testify. Is that correct?
Correct. None registered, and none raised their hand so far.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we're before you for this afternoon on several companion cases. One, which is a special use for the hotel with up to 176 hotel rooms, 60 parking spaces, ground floor restaurant retail uses, as well as accessory meeting and banquet space, as well as 3 variation applications to reduce the required loading berth from 10 by 50 to a 10 by 25 loading berth, to allow a driveway on a pedestrian street. Broadway is a pedestrian street, as well as to reduce the minimum required rear setback from 16 feet to 12.67 feet, and the south side and north side setbacks from 5 feet to 0 in the case of the south side and 1 foot on the north side. A little bit of context as well as history for the benefit of the board. This project has undergone a robust approval and community engagement and vetting process already. We met with the 44th Ward Advisory Board, several meetings with Alderman Tunney and his staff, community meetings with the East Lakeview Neighbors Association, as well as a meeting with some immediate neighbors following the broader community meeting. And we do enjoy the support of all organizations as well as Alderman Tunney. Additionally, this project was pretty extensively vetted by the Department of Planning and Development at the early stages of the project and went through their internal design review process. And the project that you see here today is reflective of both comments received from DPD as part of that engagement process, Alderman Tunney, as well as our neighborhood engagement process. This project's sort of zoning path started with a type 1 zoning approval, which we did receive back in early of 2021. And then obviously this process has followed. The site was formerly a 2-story public parking garage with approximately 125 parking spaces. That building was demolished and it currently operates as a surface parking lot. The site is an irregularly shaped, sort of a trapezoidal shaped approximately 30,000 square foot lot fronting on North Broadway. To the north is a newly constructed 208 unit mixed use development. We'll call it the Optima development, which has an underlying zoning of B33, which is the same underlying zoning that our site has. To the south is a hotel, which is owned and operated by today's applicant, and that is zoned B3-2. To the west is a multifamily neighborhood, which is zoned RM5. There is no alley serving this property. The only right-of-way access is off of Broadway. And as I mentioned before, Broadway is a pedestrian street. The variation requests are driven both by the irregularly shaped lot and the lack of an alley to the rear. If an alley did exist here, none of the setbacks that we're providing here or that we're seeking relief from would be required. Furthermore, access could then have been provided from the alley rather than as being requested here from the pedestrian street. And with that, I would just like to briefly call my witnesses and introduce them, as well as have them confirm that their testimony would be consistent with the materials that have been provided in conjunction with the application. And of course, we'd be available for any questions that the board might have. And with that, my first witness, Walt Eckenhoff, please. If you could just please quickly state your name and address for the record again, please.
Yes, Walt Eckenhoff, business address at 130 East Randolph, Suite 1850, Chicago.
And you're a licensed architect in the state of Illinois, is that correct?
I am.
And the project architect for this project.
I am.
And you have significant experience in the design and development of hotels and other hospitality uses, is that correct?
Yes, I do.
And you're familiar with the site and the surrounding neighborhood?
I am.
And you heard my sort of introductory statements, is that correct?
They are correct.
All right. And were my introductory statements consistent with your understanding and knowledge of the neighborhood as well as the site?
They are.
Okay. And so the particular hardships and unique conditions that are created here or that exist here are due to the trapezoidal irregular shape of the lot, as well as the lack of an alley to the rear. Is that correct?
That is true.
Okay. In conjunction with this application, we prepared an affidavit for your review. Is that correct?
Correct.
If you were to ask to testify further in this matter, would your testimony be consistent with that affidavit?
I'm sorry, you broke up, Katrina.
I'm sorry. All I was asking is that if you were asked to testify further in this matter, would your testimony be consistent with the information that you provided in the affidavit?
It would.
Thank you. With that, I'd like to turn to my next witness, please. Anthony, if you could please state your name and address for the record again.
Sure. Anthony Clark, 215 West Ontario Street in Chicago.
Could you briefly describe your experience in the hotel industry?
I've been involved in the hotel industry since 1998 with the development of the existing hotel just to the south of this proposed development. We've done 7+ hotels and hospitality venues, mainly in the Chicago area and mostly in the East Lakeview neighborhood. We currently operate the property to the south and also another property in downtown Chicago called the Acme Hotel.
Thank you. And so you are obviously familiar with the site and the proposed project,
Yes, I am.
as well as with the relief being sought today. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you clearly have significant experience in the development and day-to-day operations and financial aspects of hotels, such as the one proposed today. Is that correct?
Yes, I do.
You heard the testimony earlier today, both from Walt. You've reviewed the materials that were submitted, and you heard my introductory statement about the hardships and practical difficulties created by the shape of the property, as well as the lack of an alley. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And in conjunction with this application, we prepared an affidavit for your review. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And if you were asked to testify further in this matter, would your testimony be consistent with that affidavit?
It would.
Okay. And I wanted to just confirm that if these variations were not granted, the number of hotel rooms and parking spaces would have to be reduced. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And that would create a significant impact on the financial viability of the project. Is that correct?
Yes, it would.
All right. And so just finally, is it your opinion that the proposed hotel operations are compatible with other uses in the neighborhood?
Very much so.
Okay, thank you. And I'd like to turn to my final witness, please, Joe Ryan.
I'm here.
Thank you, Joe. If you just quickly state your name and address for the record again.
Joseph M. Ryan, MAI, President, LaSalle Appraisal Group with offices at 9455 South Point Avenue in Chicago.
Thank you, Joe. And Mr. Chairman, I know that you've recognized Mr. Ryan before as an expert. We would ask that you recognize him again.
Yep, he's recognized.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan, you prepared an appraisal report regarding the subject property. Is that correct?
Correct, a zoning report, yes.
A zoning report, I apologize. And that was provided in conjunction with the findings of fact, as well as affidavits and other materials in conjunction with that project.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes,
And if you were asked to testify further, your testimony would be consistent with the information provided and the conclusions reached in your report. Is that correct?
yes.
And just to confirm, is it your opinion that the development would have an adverse impact on property values in the area?
No, it would not.
And is it your opinion that the hotel as proposed meets the criteria for approval of a special use as set forth in the Chicago zoning ordinance?
Yes, it does.
That would conclude our direct testimony, and we're available to answer any questions that the board might have about the project.
Great, thank you very much. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay, he's got a super thorough report here. So thanks so much for providing all the information, and we'll take this under consideration.
Thank you very much. Have a nice weekend.
You as well. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move into continued matters. That brings us to 10-22-S and 76-22-Z with Counselor Fatikas. While Counselor gets situated, I'll go ahead and read the department's recommendation. If there's anyone here to object on this matter, just raise your hand and we'll get you promoted as well. The Department of Planning and Development recommends approval to establish a gas station and accessory retail convenience store, provided that the special use is issued solely to the applicant, Grand Gas Mart, Inc., and the development is consistent with the design and layout of the floor plans dated May 5th, 2022, prepared by Ghulam M. Kamal, licensed structural engineer.
Mr. Chairman, can I begin?
Yep, you can begin. Go right ahead.
All right, thank you so much. Again, for the record, my name is Nick Fatikas. I'm one of the attorneys at the law offices of Sam Banks at 221 North LaSalle Street. And I'm here on behalf of the applicant, Grand Gas Mart Incorporated. The applicant owns the subject property located at 4755 West Grand Avenue. The subject site is irregularly shaped and contains 17,367 square feet of total lot area. And it's our understanding that the property was most recently occupied by an auto repair facility, but that business has since left the property, and the building and the property itself have been vacant for approximately 2 years. The applicant is now proposing to locate and establish a 3-pump gas station at the site. The plans call for the adaptive reuse of the existing 1-story building so that it can function as the accessory retail convenience store for the station. In order to permit the project, the applicant is seeking a special use to permit the gas station use because the subject property is located in a C2-1 zoning district. The applicant is also seeking a companion variation to reduce the lot area requirement for the proposed gas station because of the subject lot's irregular shape. There will be 3 witnesses testifying this afternoon. On behalf of the applicant, Mr. Chaco, I'm going to kill the last name, I apologize, Kizhakakutu, our project engineer, Ghulam Kamal, and our MAI designated appraiser, Mr. Peter Poulos. And Mr. Chairman.
Nick, really quick, I'm promoting a Sobia Sulfana, and I want to confirm, Sobia, if you're here to object or what your role is. So you've got to accept the promotion I just sent you. Okay, Sobia, so if you could unmute.
Yes,
Hi, yes, so are you here to object on this matter?
yeah, my name Chakochan Kereke Kut.
Okay, so you're
He's the-
you're with the applicant.
He is,
Yes.
yeah, he's our testifying applicant.
Great,
Yes.
okay, sorry, Counselor, just clarifying, go right ahead.
I appreciate it. But with that though, Mr. Chairman, before I call my witnesses, I wanted to summarize a few changes that have been incorporated into our plan since our last meeting when the case was continued last month. First, concerns were initially raised about the 4 existing driveways that currently serve the property. And based on our ongoing review with DPD, we agreed to remove the driveway on North Cicero Avenue closest to the intersection. And the reason was that driveway was just against a bus stop. And in order to improve pedestrian safety, we thought it was best to relocate or remove that from our plan. We also agreed to remove the 2 driveways on the West Grand Avenue side of the property and replace them with a proposed more centralized driveway on that side of the lot. So in the end, the revised plan reduces the total number of driveways from the 4 existing to the 2 proposed. And those changes actually forced us to reduce the number of gas pumps proposed for the station. Originally, we had proposed 4 gas pumps, but in order to improve on-site traffic circulation, we reduced the number from 4 to 3. And then lastly, in order to meet our landscaping requirement, we reduced the number of on-site parking spaces originally proposed at 6 to 3. I just wanted to make sure those changes were clear for the board members and also let the board know that both Alderman Mitz and the department have reviewed and approved those plans, and a letter of support from Alderman Mitz is also on file for this project. And with that, if I can call Chaco as my first witness.
Great. Yep, Chaco, if you could please state your name and address.
Chakochan Kereke Kut, 4755 Grand, Chicago 60639.
Great, thank you, sir. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes,
Great, thank you.
And Chaco, you are the president of the applicant Grand Gas Smart Incorporated,
yes,
and you are that entity owns 4755 West Grand Avenue, right?
yes,
And as I described it, the subject lot is irregularly shaped and contains about 17,367 square feet of lot area, right?
yes,
And you're proposing to adapt the existing building and establish a 3-pump gas station at the property. Is that right?
yes,
Chaco, the gas station will operate 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
yes,
And the retail store will maintain similar hours. However, access into the store would be limited overnight for security reasons. Is that right?
yes,
And as a new store, you anticipate hiring approximately 4 to 6 employees to help you run the business?
yes,
And Chaco, you have over 25 years of experience in the gas station business and industry. Is that right?
yes,
And you currently operate 6 other stations in the Chicagoland area. Is that right?
yes, yes,
And although this property is admittedly uniquely shaped, you believe the gas station will operate in a safe and efficient manner, given the revised layout. Is that right?
yes,
And again, you did work directly with Alderman Mitz on this proposal. Is that right?
yes,
And it's your understanding that the alderman submitted a letter of support for the project.
yes,
Chaco, is it your understanding that my office filed a witness statement on your behalf in this case?
yes,
And if you were to continue to testify, would that testimony be consistent with the statements we provided?
yes,
Thank you very much. Mr. Chairman, my next witness is Mr. Ghulam Kamal.
Great, and Mr. Kamal, you're I've tried to promote you, but I think you can still speak. You've got to accept the promotion if you want to be a panelist, but try unmuting and see if we can hear you.
Chairman, I think he's not in front of his device.
Okay.
You know what, I'll shoot him a quick email, Chairman. If you want, I can go out of order and call Mr. Pujols.
Yep, that's fine. And Chaco, just stay on. I know your camera's off. That's okay, but just make sure you stay on. Nick, shoot Gulam a message, but we can go to Peter.
Okay, thank you so much. Mr. Pujols, can you please state your name and address for the record?
Hi, Peter Poulos, offices at 10109 South 83rd Avenue, Palos Hills, Illinois.
Great. And Peter, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Thank you. And we acknowledge your expertise based off many appearances and report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep.
And Peter, again, the scope of your assignment in this case was to determine whether the requested special use would comply with the general criteria for special uses as set forth in the code. Is that right?
That's correct.
And you were also asked to provide a general opinion regarding the requested variation as well.
Yes,
And you did physically inspect the subject property and the surrounding area?
that's correct.
And you prepared a written zoning analysis report summarizing your findings and conclusions in this case. Is that right?
Yes, I did.
And with respect to the special use and variation standards, you believe that the proposal meets the all approval criteria, right?
Yes, that's correct. That's correct.
And again, we're proposing in this case to replace what's now a vacant auto repair shop with a new gas station and accessory retail store.
Right.
And I'm so sorry. And you believe the applicant's plan will actually, now that we've made these adjustments, will actually improve the existing site and building conditions at the property.
That's correct.
And most importantly, given the surrounding commercial area and industrial, the planned manufacturing district just to the north of our property, you believe the proposed use will be compatible with the surrounding land uses. Is that right?
That's right. Absolutely.
And Peter, if you were to continue to testify, your testimony would be consistent with findings and conclusions contained in your written report, correct?
That is correct.
Chairman, that concludes the testimony of Mr. Poulos. I've emailed and we're actually calling Gulam. However, I can, if you'd like, just for the purposes of the record, I can have Mr. Poulos speak to the variation hardship, just to kind of cover our bases in case we can't get a hold of Mr. Kamal.
Yeah, let's do that, Nick. That would be great.
I think just in case. So Peter, your understanding is that the subject lot is uniquely shaped, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
It's more of a trapezoid that runs at an angle because of Grand Avenue, correct?
Right. Similar along lots of the properties along Grand.
So it actually comes to an actual triangular point as opposed to a typical rectangle, right?
That's right. That's right.
And that lot configuration is really the hardship in this case because it limits our square footage, our total lot area, to 17,367 square feet, right?
That's right.
And that's under the 20,000 square feet, requirement for the establishment of a new gas station.
That's correct.
So the hardship in this case is, again, as you see on the screen, a trapezoid lot that is cut into a unique shape compared to a typical rectangular lot.
That's right.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I'd make the rest of my team available for any questions by you or the board members regarding either the variation or special use in this case.
Okay, yep, thank you, everybody. Are there any questions from the board? Okay, seeing as there are none, we'll take this under consideration. And thank you very much, everyone, for your time today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Chaco. Have a good weekend.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, let's go to calendar number 137-22-Z. Our last of the day. We have Counselor Tom Moore, but I want to state, if you're here to object on this matter, please just raise your hand and we will get you promoted and make sure that you can speak. I'm promoting Melinda Sullivan right now. Yep, okay, good. And if you're on the phone, to object, if you press *9, then you can speak. Okay, I'm promoting AJ Herman right now. Okay, great. I think we got everyone promoted, but raise your hand throughout. If not, and we'll make sure to do so. So a little bit of the process when there's objectors before we get into this. First, the applicant will give an overview in their case in chief. The board will have the opportunity to ask questions of the attorney, the applicant, related to the case in chief. Then we'll move to the objectors. We'll hear objections from the objectors, and at that time, you're able to ask questions of the applicant. Then we'll move back to the applicant for a rebuttal and a brief closing. Throughout this whole time, the board can ask questions whenever they please. So with that, Counselor, you can get us started.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do I have Joe Lyons and Jack Stoneberg, the applicant, principal, and the architect?
Yes, Jack is here.
Great.
Okay. And do we have Joe Lyons as well?
Is Joe potentially the 773 number? Because if so, you've got to push *9.
Yes, I'm here. Joe Lyons.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. And real quick, Counselor, we've got Nick Zettel on.
Right.
With the Alderman's office. Nick, do you want to? Oh, we've got Alderman LaSpada. Alderman LaSpada, do you want to speak at the beginning of this or the end of this? We're open to whatever you prefer.
I'll elect to close. Thank you, Timmy.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, good. And AJ Herman, I see your hand raised as well. Are you here to object?
Yeah, sorry, I had to find the unmute button, so I'll just hang out until for the process that you said.
Yep, we'll get to you. Okay, good, Counselor. I think.
Thank you. Well,
go ahead.
Well, so, Mr. Chairman, usually I like to have the witnesses tell the story, but I think in this case it'd be helpful to just do a brief introduction and remind the board kind of the history. This property is on a street that has a street in the front and a street in the back. So it's called a through lot. And the odd thing about that is that it therefore has two front yards. It's kind of an oddity of the zoning code. And so you can't have a garage because garages are a permitted use in a rear yard, but since you have two front yards, you can only have a garage with a variance. This same property, we appeared about a year or so ago with a different applicant who is now the contract seller. And if you'll remember, there was a horrific story of that applicant had undermined an existing building that he was renovating, and part of it had gone in and damaged what the owner before Mr. Herman, and part of it had gone and damaged the current owner to the west. And they, of course, were very upset and didn't appreciate the applicant's credibility. And this board, in its discretion, denied the application. So there's a vacant lot, and Joe Lyons is a Irish builder, contractor, looking for lots, likes to build single-family homes. And he has a contract to purchase this property and build a single-family home. The prior application had side yard, it had several variances, side yard variances, different things. This one only asks for it's not a rear yard variance, it's the back of the lot where there is another street, and a variance to allow a garage. And our one and only exhibit that we made as a hearing exhibit, prepared by Mr. Stoneberg, shows that most of the lots, which are all similarly oriented with their front on Marion Court and their back on this other street, most of them have garages. And Mr. Joe Lyons will tell you that he doesn't think he could sell the house without a garage. So we're here for that single variance. Now, the neighbors understandably are cynical. Is the contract buyer really, is this all some sort of conspiracy? Is there really a sham going on here? Is he really still involved? Is he really going to end up getting a benefit indirectly that he wasn't able to get when you denied it? And Joe Lyons is here to tell you that's not true. And I've learned, and we had a meeting with the alderman and with Nick Sattel and with the neighbors, and we told them we would ask you and we would stipulate, but I cautioned them, we can't presume that you're going to grant this. But if you decide that we meet our burden, and if you grant it, then we would ask you to limit the granting of the variance and the permit that will follow to J&P Contractors, to Mr. Lyons, so that if for whatever reason, and the neighbors have a lot of fears that somehow, Mr. Lyons doesn't move forward after he gets the variance, if he were to get the variance, that somehow it would, Mr. Gilman would then get the benefit. And if you were to limit it to J&P Contractors, the applicant here, then Mr. Gilman, if somehow it got back to him, he'd have to start over again. He'd be right where he is now, a vacant lot, and he could be a contract seller or a seller, whatever. So that's the background. And with that, I would call Joe Lyons with your permission.
Yeah, how you doing?
Here, Joe, I'll ask you questions. You just heard my introduction. In terms of your involvement, is that how you became involved?
And Tom, did we swear? I don't believe we swore.
No, I don't think you did. I'm sorry.
Nope. So Joe, will you state your name and address, please?
Joseph Lyons, 5920 North Colmar Avenue, Chicago, Illinois, 60646.
Thank you. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes, I do.
Thank you. Great.
And Joe Lyons, you're a builder, are you?
Yes.
And mostly you build single-family homes. You sometimes some small apartment buildings as well.
We do multifamily also. So
okay.
we do wide range and remodeling. So we do everything.
Okay. In any case, you were looking for a lot you could build a house on. Is that right?
Yes.
And this house, this lot would suit a nice family home if you were able to build it and with a garage. Is that right?
Yes.
And
kind of only with that. Yes.
And you have a contract with the former applicant, the still title holder of the property, but your contract is contingent upon being able to get a variance. Is that right?
Correct.
And as Mr. Stoneberg will tell us, you can't, because it's a through lot, you can't have a garage. You could only have a parking pad unless you get the variance. Is that right?
Yes.
And so you're asking the board to grant this variance. And if you get it, you would intend to build it. Is that right?
Correct.
And you hired Mr. Stoneberg because he's a competent architect and he had done some work on this lot before and was very familiar with it. Is that right?
That's correct.
But you asked him to get rid of all the other variances and just asked for the variance that would allow the garage. Is that right?
Yes.
And you have a reputation that you value. Is that right?
I do.
And so you wouldn't be involved in any kind of conspiracy or anything to try to trick this board or trick the neighbors?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I'm saying you wouldn't, you have no intention.
No, I just want to buy the lot if I can get the variance. That's it. If it doesn't go through, I'm going to move on. Simple as that.
Okay. And you and I worked out a affidavit where you addressed all the criteria necessary for this board to grant this variance. And if you were to continue to testify, you testify consistently with it. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And Jack Stoneberg, are you here?
I'm here, yes.
And
Jack, will you state your name and address, please?
Yeah, Jack Stoneberg Gross Architects, and our office is up at 3320 North Ravenswood in Chicago.
Thank you. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do, Chairman. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And Jack, you've testified before this board many times before. Is that right?
Yes, we've been on the Zoom often recently, I think.
Yeah. And this lot has three classic hardships. Is that right?
Yeah, the lot's 24 feet wide, so it's a substandard width. It's 107 feet in length, so it's a substandard length. And it also has the definition of the through lot criteria, which imposes that it essentially has two front yards.
And that's why we need the variance in order to have a garage on the back part of this lot. Is that right?
Yeah, the rear, actually, let's just call it the second fronts onto North Honore Street, which is basically, acts as an alley for all the houses that front onto Marion Court.
And you actually did a study, and we have an exhibit, I don't know if it's available, that we filed that shows that the vast majority of the houses are oriented exactly as this one would be and have garages exactly as this one does.
Yes.
And in your professional opinion, it's going to otherwise abide by all of the codes and regulations of the city. Is that right?
Yes, I mean it's a narrow, small, wonderfully designed single-family home that's not exceeding height, width, or area standards. And again, it's a small lot, so it's not a tremendously large home.
Okay. And you and I worked out an affidavit where you directed your comments to all of the criteria necessary for this board to grant a variance. And if you were able to continue testifying, you would adopt that as your testimony. Is that right?
Yes, Tom, and thank you.
Mr. Chairman, that's our case in chief. That's our case in chief.
Okay. Yeah, any questions from members of the board before we hear from the objectors? Okay, let's move over to the objectors, so we have a good frame of where this conversation is going to go. So is there anyone on the objection side who wants to lead it off? If not, we'll get to all of you, and so I can just choose to.
I can. Melinda Sullivan.
Great, thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Will you state your name and address, please?
Sure, Melinda Sullivan, 1241 North Marion Court, Chicago, 60622.
And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
Yes.
Great, go right ahead.
All right, so good afternoon. As I said, my name is Melinda Sullivan, and I own and live at the property located at 1241 North Marion Court, which is located directly next door and south of 1243 North Marion. The sale of 1243 North Marion to the applicant, J&P Contractors, is contingent upon the approval of the variance application being considered today. If this application is approved and can be limited to only J&P Contractors as the applicant and as the owner of 1243 North Marion, then I do not object this application. However, if this limitation is not possible, then I am opposed to this application because it could allow the current owner, Rich Gilman, to rebuild on the property if the variance is approved. I am extremely concerned that if this application is approved and J&P Contractors does not purchase 1243 North Marion, that Mr. Gilman will be able to use the approved application and build on the property again. If this occurs, I will be very, very concerned for my physical safety, potential damage to my home, and the same for my neighbors. Now, while I understand the property will not remain vacant and there will be a new home built, but I'm very opposed to Mr. Gilman possibly building on the property again based on his negative history with construction on this property. In 2020, Mr. Gilman was working on a gut rehab of this property. And during construction, the building collapsed and fell onto my home, damaging my property and the neighboring property at 1245 Marion. I was home at the time the building collapsed, and I was very fortunate that I was not physically injured or killed. In 2021, Mr. Gilman filed a zoning variance application with the Zoning Board of Appeals to construct a new single-family home at 1243 Marion. This board denied his application because the variance would have endangered public safety, his lack of construction safety, cleanup of the property was not prioritized, and Mr. Gilman had zero credibility as a witness. So shortly after Mr. Gilman's application was denied, 1243 Marion was listed for sale. The property was listed for most of 2021 and then was removed from the market. Mr. Gilman has not been able to sell the property over the past year, which makes me wonder if this new application could possibly be a loophole. Is the current application an attempt to circumvent the application process? If Mr. Gilman filed a new application with his name, would the zoning board approve based on his history with the property? So the current application has been filed under a different name, and if approved, this would be a successful outcome for Mr. Gilman. Either J&B Contractors will purchase the property from him, which is the ideal outcome because the property will be sold and Mr. Gilman will no longer be involved with the property. Or Mr. Gilman could hire J&B Contractors as his contractor and develop the property using the approved application. Mr. Gilman and J&P Contractors recently worked on a construction project together at 2512 West Superior, where the building permit lists Mr. Gilman as the owner and J&P Contractors as the contractor. I'm very concerned the same working situation will occur at 1243 North Marion if the application is approved and the property has not been sold. So my understanding is the basis of the application variance is hardship, as the property is a through lot and also short and narrow. However, every lot located on the east side of Marion Court has similar attributes, so this is not a unique circumstance. In addition, not every property on the east side of Marion Court has a garage, and this has not prevented homes from being sold and purchased over the years. When I purchased my home at 1241, the property did not have a garage. So I have a question.
Yep, you can ask questions of the applicant, absolutely.
Okay, so I have, well, I'm not sure who this would be for or who would help me to answer, but so the question I have is about the proposed setback. So during the Zoning Board of Appeals hearing in March of 2021 for this property, the Assistant Zoning Administrator, Stephen, I don't know if I'm Valanzano. I'm sure.
It's close enough. Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. He testified that the requested setback from 20 feet to 2 feet for North Honoree would not be approved because it was more than a 50% adjustment allowable under law. So would this same law apply to the new application, considering it's a very similar setback request? And then my second question is, so if the application is approved, in the event there is no sale of 1243 North Marion to J&P Contractors, what happens to the approved application? Would it be voided and no longer be available to be used by another developer, or could the owner move forward with it? So then, in addition to testifying at this hearing today, I also submitted via email a detailed opposition statement with 13 attachments, including photos of the collapsed building, photos to demonstrate the lack of property maintenance by the current owner over the past year, and the Zoning Board of Appeals denial of last year's application. So finally, I would just like to emphasize, if 1243 North Marion had already been sold and Mr. Gilman was no longer the owner of the property, then I would not be opposing this application today. So thank you for your time and consideration.
Great. Yep. Thank you. And so to your second question, when we limit something to the applicant, only the applicant can use the variation. That would be a separate condition we'd read when we voted. So if that was the route we took here, we would limit it to J&P, and only J&P would be able to use it.
But then if J&P doesn't own the property, could they still use the application to build on the property? That's where I'm confused. So you have, the owner is one individual, and then if the permit is J&P Contractors, couldn't the owner hire J&P Contractor with the approved permit to build on the property?
Yes, they assumedly could.
Okay, so that's the issue I have.
Okay. I want to see if someone from DPD is on to answer your first question, just because no one from the board, unless the applicant has this thought, I think the city's probably the best bet. So do we have Nancy Radzovich or Steve Lenziano on? And can you repeat that first question, Ms. Sullivan? Because there was a lot all at once. Thanks.
Okay, let me go back to it. So last year, Stephen testified that the requested setback from 20 feet to 2 feet for North Honorary would not be approved because it was more than a 50% adjustment allowable under law. So my question is, would this law apply in this situation with the new application, since they're asking for a similar setback?
So if I may, Mr. Chairman, usually the 50% thing is that it can be done as an administrative adjustment. Over 50%, we have to come to the board. I mean, that's the usual a 50% with setback issue. I don't remember exactly Mr. Valenciano's comment, but that is where the 50% comes in.
Yeah, the official denial from the zoning from the zoning department notes that the minimum setback from the front property line for parking is from 20 feet to 2 feet. 2 feet is the kind of the typical standard for the setback of a garage off of the alley. If the alley is 16 feet, you need a 10-foot setback to the garage from a 16-foot alley. So that translates to a 2-foot setback off of that honorary property line. And this standard, or the zoning ordinance states that you can't have parking in the first 20 feet of a front yard. So that's how you get the reduction from 20 feet to 2 feet. Or that's how it's written up in the denial. If that explained anything.
Yeah, Ms. Sullivan, did Councilor Moore or Jack's response make sense to you? Tom is right.
Okay, it was just a question because when I re-listened to the hearing last year, that was what I heard. So I was wondering if that would apply here or not. And based on what you said, it doesn't. So.
Okay, so let's move to the next objector. I know we have AJ Herman on. AJ, would you like to go next?
Yeah, that works great. Thanks.
Great. And will you state your name and address, please?
Yeah, AJ Herman, 1245 North Marion Court, Chicago, Illinois, 60622.
Thanks. And do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in today's proceedings?
I do.
Okay, great. Go right ahead.
Great, thank you. So appreciate you hearing me in opposition to the case today, to the board. My fiance and I moved into this home in August of 2021. I'm a lifelong kind of Chicago suburbs guy. We came here so she could start as a pediatric anesthesiologist at Lurie Children's Hospital. And we thought this would be the house that we would be able to start a family in. And we moved in, and within the first 2 weeks of moving in, we were shocked and scared that we received the variance denial from last year, and did a little bit of research online, and we saw the collapse that had happened at the property next to us. You know, this wasn't disclosed to us in the home sale, so it was very, very concerning to us in our new home. But we were very, very relieved once we read the kind of the full case, and at the bottom of it that the zoning variance was denied and that it was a final decision subject to review under the Illinois Administrative Review. So it came to a shock to us this year when there was another applicant put in by the same owner as last year, Rich Gilman, except this time under his corporation, Marion Court LLC, for a similar variance as last year, minus the side setback issue that had been mentioned previously in the case. So, you know, I talked to the prior owner of the property, I learned the history, and I also did some research online. I watched, you know, the prior video, and I've seen the pictures of our house as it was damaged last year. And, you know, I'm highly opposed to this unless we can work out a situation where it is limited to both owner and applicant as J&P contractors. And I'll get into some of the reasoning here. So first of all, I want to ask, I sent in several exhibits on Monday. Have you guys received the exhibits so we might be able to look at them on this call?
You have the exhibits in what the board reviews. I'm not positive we can bring them up on the call, but let me check.
Timmy, it's okay. If you guys review it offline, we don't have to worry about it on the
Well,
call.
if you describe it, so our staff would have to bring them up. We have them by deadline, so the board members have it all in front of us. This wouldn't even be an option if we were in person, but I think Jeanette is looking. So if you could
Sure.
describe it, we can keep going.
Great, sounds good. I'll begin or continue my testimony. So Section 17-13-1107-A, approval criteria, Chicago zoning ordinance states that the zoning board of appeals may not approve a variation unless it makes findings based upon evidence presented to it in each specific case that one, strict compliance with the regulations and standards of the zoning ordinance would create practical difficulties or particular hardships for the subject property, and two, the requested variation is consistent with the stated purpose and intent of the zoning ordinance per section 17-01-0500. Section 17-01-0500 includes the following: promoting the public health, safety, and general welfare, preserving the overall quality of life for residents and visitors, and protecting the character of established residential neighborhoods. So I oppose on the following grounds. One, no hardship or practical difficulties are created for the subject property. An interested party purchased, that is Marion Court Venture, purchased this home knowingly at a low cost of $500,000, which was $110,000 less than when the home was previously sold. Furthermore, the home was purchased at $500,000 when there was an actual house on the property. The current owner then listed the property at 1.5 million before collapsing that house while doing a gut rehab, partially, if not completely, due to poor safety practices as outlined in Exhibit A that I attached with picture in Exhibit C, which is a picture of the property after the house collapsed, including damage that was done to my property and to Melinda's property. You'll be able to see in the image that much of the siding on my house was ripped off of the house, and there are wood boards that are nailed into the house in order to make sure that there's not an open hole in the side of the house.
Yeah, and Mr. Herman, just so you know, when we voted on this last time, we saw all these images, and this was all at the basis of what we decided.
Okay, just wanted to make sure this is all still front of mind for everybody. I know you guys see 100 cases, a month basically. So if that's the case, then I won't drag you through it again. So the fact that the house previously sold twice within a 2-year period without a garage proves that a garage is not needed to make a quote unquote reasonable rate of return, and proves that this property could just be overpriced because there are several houses on the block, by my count at least 5, that don't have a garage. There's no hardship, as the contract sale would just be at a higher price than desired to the applicant to make the rate of return that would fit within the zoning. It's just an inconvenience because they're not able to build the house with the architectural design that they want to build. 2, there is no hardship due to the lot being a short lot or through lot, because every lot on our block, on this side of the block, including 7 of them, which have sold in the past 5 years, are, short through lots. You can really make a beautiful house without any sort of variance, just like the house that was on this lot previously. That was a beautiful workman's cottage and was unfortunately knocked down onto the house of Melinda and the prior owners before us. Next, code 17-1-0501 cites that the variance must promote public health, safety, and general welfare. If this variance is passed and the property sale to JMP Contractors is terminated or not executed for any reason, Rich Gilman and Mary Court Venture would be able to build on this property. If there is a situation where we limit this to JMP Contractors as applicant and Rich Gilman and Marion Court Venture LLC are still owner, I'm concerned that might put undue pressure on the builder to take shortcuts on the job, just as they did on the last job, to make sure, or that would put safety of myself and Melinda at risk, just as occurred before. I guess furthermore evidence of this is just like the current state of the property. There's no, as you can see in the picture here, there's no intent on doing any sort of upkeep. There's sharp edges in there. There's often rats running around in there. Weeds grew from there into my air conditioning unit, as can be seen here. I've had to multiple times pull weeds out of the neighbor's lot into out of our air conditioning unit. And just kind of generally tend to that property, as I know that Melinda and her housemate have done as well, because we've worked on it together. There is no sort of like snow removal that's done. Nothing whatsoever is done to take care of this property whatsoever right now that gives me any sort of faith that this owner or this builder would be looking out for the best interest of the neighbors, the health, safety, and welfare of the neighbors. There's been no effort to do that whatsoever. Okay, moving on. I guess while we have these specific pictures up, Ordinance 17-1-0503 states the intent of the zoning ordinance is to protect the character of established residential neighborhoods. The proposal for 1243 North Marion would deter the character of the neighborhood for the following reasons. 1, the design proposes modern trim board facade on the front, and as you can see here, with the exception of one property, the standard for the block is to have gray or yellow or tan facade on the front of the house that is brick. Okay. 2, the plans propose a rooftop deck, which to my knowledge is uncharacteristic of most of the homes on the south side of the block as well. Just bear with me. I made a couple notes for this here. I think the last thing too is I think just doubling down on Melinda's concern While it is clear that there is an attempt for the applicant to distance himself from Marion Court Venture LLC, another thing that I would note is all of the other parties involved here, Tom Moore, Jack Stoneberg, the owner, Rich Gilman, these are all the same parties that have been previously involved. And this gives me the impression that actually this is ultimately the same group of people working on this property that have in the past had interest in the property and could put us at risk from a safety perspective again. So I want to make one thing very, very clear. I've heard a couple of people, I think I heard Tom say, I think I heard Melinda say, like, Mr. Gilman, don't want to help Mr. Gilman benefit from this property. I am not trying to, hurt Mr. Gilman in any sort of way from benefiting from the property. My intent here is to watch out for my safety and the safety of Melinda. And what keeps me up at night is the thought of a similar crew coming in and building on this property and having the same issues happen to the house that just happened before, because there's a similar group of people that are involved. That's it from my perspective.
Thank you, Mr. Herman. Are there additional objectors? Okay, so I know the board is going to have questions based off of all of this to our process. I want to move back to the applicant for the rebuttal part, and then to the board for questions. So, Counselor, can you go to rebuttal and we'll take questions from there?
Just a few questions. Joe Lyons, will you address your safety record and how you relate to neighbors when you're building a building in terms of giving them your cell phone, shoveling the walks, being generally courteous, etc.?
I've been at this probably for 27 years, and I've never seen the inside of a courtroom. I've never had an issue with any project I've ever done. I understand that the two neighbors have gone through hell with this, but that has nothing to do with me. Zero. I'm just looking for a garage so I can build a house. I think it's a better selling point. I know there's houses on the block without garages, but it's Chicago, and I know someone that's buying a house for nearly $2 million is going to want a car or garage to put their car in. Like I said, we've never had any issues on other jobs. We always take care of it. We have a crew for site cleanup. There's always guys on the job, shoveling snow, all of that. So, I mean, that shouldn't be a concern with me at all.
And would you give the neighbors on either side, or any neighbors who's concerned, your cell phone if there's ever any issue like a construction truck blocking something or anything like that?
Sure. Yeah, we have signs. We have signs on all our projects. My number is on every sign. My cell phone number.
So, can you promise these people that if the board were to see fit to grant this, you would be a safe and respectful builder?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And then briefly, Jack, would you address the character of does the building you've designed fit into the character of the neighborhood?
Yeah, I mean, there's different flavors. I mean, this is, it has a gable front roof, it's a frame building with traditional overhangs. It might not, the glazing in the windows might not appear traditional because they're not divided lights, but from my perspective, it's a wonderfully designed home. I have to say that I met Joe Lyons when he walked in here, I don't know, like 2 years ago. And recently he's participated in a bid on a large project up in Alderman Tunney's ward for a different client. And it's a large complex project. And he was awarded the project because all his subcontractors are extremely high caliber. So we're talking, the plumbing contractor, Lakeshore Plumbing, his electrician, these are all top-notch, subcontracting crews that he's affiliated with. And this other development group recognized that and granted Joe the project. So I think, one litmus test of a contractor is the caliber of his subcontractors. And I think Joe's subcontractors are, they're in here all the time. I mean, it's a revolving door of wonderfully hardworking Irish fellows. So I just wanted to point that out. I was not involved in all this crazy falling down of the previous building. I wasn't the architect of record for that. I was not affiliated with the project. We were hired to design the home after it had fallen down. I think I mentioned that in the previous year's, meeting. And so our involvement in that was nothing. But I also wanted to point out that it's a requirement to build a house in an RS3 zone that the house has parking. It needs two cars, parking spaces for 2 cars. And regardless of whether or not there's a garage or a parking pad, either one of those would still require a variation because you can't park on a parking pad in the front yard. So in either scenario, if a variation isn't approved for parking, it renders the lot unbuildable because the only thing that you can build on the lot is a single family residence. And so that's you can't build a house without providing parking, and you can't park on the site on a slab on grade, in the front yard, nor can you park or you also need to have a garage. So I think one of the previous fellows was saying that you don't need a garage to sell a house. Well, you don't, but you still need to permit parking. And to permit it, you need this variation, whether or not the parking is in a garage or it's just your car in your front yard. I just wanted to clarify that.
Mr. Chairman, I think that's all the evidence we would need to present.
Okay, thank you. Questions from the board?
Yeah, I'll ask a question of Mr. Lyons. There was a lot from the objectors about potential conspiracy between you and Rich Gilman. And my question to you is it your intent, if the variation is granted, to follow through with the purchase of the property and then build according to the plans?
That is it, correct.
Do you, other than purchasing the property from Rich Gilman, do you have any other business dealings with Mr. Gilman?
I do. I just recently finished a project with him over on Superior, and he's starting another one right beside it.
Okay.
And his wife is a realtor, and if this goes through, that was part of the deal, that his wife would get the sale on the house.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
This is Commissioner Esposito. So along those lines, what is the sale of the house exactly? Is there a contract, and at what price?
$650.
And does a contract exist?
Yes.
And it is, can you describe the contingency?
The contingency is on this meeting. It's for this garage. If we get the variance for this garage, it goes through. If we don't, I'm just going to move on.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, other questions from the board, and I'm sorry to the objectors, we stick to our process, so we're at the point where the board speaks and then the applicant closes out. Any other questions? Okay, Tom, if you want to take a closing, it sounds like you have all the information that we need. But you have the right to take that closing by the process that was drawn out.
So you're not going to have the alderman speak, or you want me to speak first, or?
So the alderman was going to speak at the tail end.
Very well.
Alderman Laspada, if you're able to speak at any point, though.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think the board is experienced and understands the situation here. You know, the neighbors were hurt, and obviously that makes them very sensitive. I think it doesn't make sense to keep this as a vacant lot. We had a meeting with the alderman brokered it, and I think we came to a reasonable resolution without assuming the board's going to grant it. If they grant it, we are asking and stipulate that it be limited to J&P. And we believe that that's a reasonable resolution that will both protect the neighbors and allow this to be a, to no longer have a vacant lot with weeds and rats.
Okay, thanks. And Alderman Laspada, I'll go to you now.
Thank you very much. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. Truly, like I'm here to back up my residents on this, because I remember the week of this building, the prior building falling apart, falling into our neighbor's property. I can only imagine, although they expressed it at the time, how frustrating and angering that was for them. I can understand why they would be wary of even the perception or the chance that they would be granting relief or economic benefit to the current owner of the property. When we met with Mr. Moore and his team, the question was exactly what Ms. Sullivan raised. Are we granting relief specifically for Joe, for the new buyer? Is there any chance that this relief goes back retroactively to Mr. Gilman? I was in support as long as it was that kind of conditional relief that we were talking about. It is what you have heard Mr. Moore arguing for as well. Also what Ms. Sullivan raised up. I showed up because when we were emailing about this in recent weeks, it kind of was communicated to me that kind of conditional relief was off the table, which is what I am here to back up. I am in support so long as it is conditional, so long as that it can move forward only to Mr. Lyons. On the chance that we are granting relief that could pass back to Mr. Gilman, should this contract fall through after the hearing today, that is where my concern and my potential opposition would be. Those are the points that I would raise. I would also say in the interim time, regardless of how this moves forward, should not be a lot full of weeds and rats. I think we all know like the lot deserves better upkeep than the photos that we're seeing from our residents. Those are all the points that I would raise. Thank you for allowing the time for my testimony.
Yeah, thank you, Alderman Laspada, for coming today as well. And can you do me a favor? I'm going to swear. Did we lose him?
No, still here.
Sorry, my screen switched. I want to swear you just to everything you said, because shame on me. I should have done this at the beginning. But if you could say your name and who you are.
Yes, my name is Daniel Laspada. I serve as alderman in the 1st Ward.
Great, thank you so much. And do you swear or affirm that to tell the truth today and that you have told the truth today in full?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Okay, so with that, we as the board have everything that we need, and we're gonna have discussion and take this one under consideration.
Thank you for your time and patience.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I move that we convene in the closed session pursuant to sections 2C4 of the Open Meetings Act for the purpose of considering the evidence and testimony presented in open session. For those viewing, for those viewing by live stream, we will return from our closed session and the live stream will continue at that point. Commissioner Toya seconds. Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, we're closed. Thanks, everyone. Okay, I move that we return to open session. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, we are back. And we will now vote. Note that any motion to approve a special use will be tied to the recommendations of the department and any additional conditions read by me. I move to approve all continuance requests to the dates stated by me. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, they're approved. I move to approve all withdrawal requests. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, they're approved. All right, let's get into call. I move to approve application for calendar number 141-22-C. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the matter is approved. I move to approve application for, sorry about that, but we're going to do the next iteration of that calendar number. So I move to approve application for calendar number 142-22-C. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the matter is approved. I move to approve application for calendar number 143-22-S. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the matter is approved. I move to approve applications for calendar numbers 144-22-C and 145-22-C. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the matters are approved. I move to approve applications for calendar numbers 150-22-C and 151-22-C. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the matters are approved. I move to approve application for calendar number 152-22-C. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
No.
Commissioner Toya.
No.
I vote no, the matter is denied. I move to approve applications for calendar numbers 153-22-Z and 154-22-C. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the matters are approved. Move to approve applications for calendar numbers 156-22-C and 157-22-Z. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the matters are approved. I move to approve applications for calendar numbers 158-22-S and 159-22-S. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the matters are approved. I move to approve applications for calendar numbers 160-22-Z and 161-22-Z. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the matters are approved. I move to approve application for calendar number 162-22-S. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
No.
Commissioner Toya.
I recuse myself.
I vote yes, the matter is denied. I move to approve application for calendar number 163-22-S. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
The matter is approved. I move to approve applications for calendar numbers 164-22-S and 165-22-Z. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the matters are approved. I move to approve application for calendar number 166-22-Z. Commissioner Toya seconds, Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the matters are approved. I move to approve applications for calendar numbers 167-22-S, 168-22-Z, 169-22-Z, and 170-22-Z. Commissioner Toya seconds. Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the matters are approved. I move to approve applications for calendar numbers 10-22-S and 76-22-Z. Commissioner Toya seconds. Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the matters are approved. I move to approve application for calendar number 137-22-Z on the condition that the variation shall be limited solely to the applicant, and any building permit issued in conjunction with the variation shall be issued solely to the applicant. Applicant being J&P Contractors with Joseph Lyons as 100% shareholder. Commissioner Toya seconds. Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, the matter is approved, conditioned as stated. I move to approve the written resolutions containing findings of fact consistent with the votes of the board for the board's April 22nd, 2022 regular meeting, with the exception of board calendar numbers 124-22-A, 138-22-Z, 139-22-Z, 75-22-S, 81-22-Z, and 92-22-Z. Commissioner Toya seconds. Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, they're approved. I move to approve the written closed session minutes of the board from November 2021 through April 2022. Commissioner Toya seconds. Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, they're approved. I move that we adjourn the meeting. Commissioner Toya seconds. Commissioner Sanchez,
Yes.
Commissioner Esposito,
Yes.
Commissioner Toya.
Yes.
I vote yes, we're adjourned. Thank you everyone for all the work that goes into this. As always, go enjoy what's left of a beautiful day, and we'll see everyone in June.